So The Conjuring, the only other shared universe, cinematic shared universe, to succeed other than Marvel, which it did at one time. Not so much now. But yeah, Little Conjuring, which, was a series of horror films that were loosely connected. And there you go. You've got your shared universe. And since it was cheaper to make than Marvel, it was pretty easy to make them profitable, on that aspect. But it came at a time when a new trend in horror, people will dismiss it as jump scares, but for the most part, just about every horror movie has some jump scare to some extent. Some don't, but anyway, it came out of where there was this, in my opinion, way too much emphasis on torture porn, and your only other option at the time would have been found footage, and that got done to death, really. Even though I'm a sucker for the genre, there's too much bad that outweighs the good in that genre. But Conjuring came along. There was Sinister and Insidious, but Conjuring is the one that pretty much led the pack, I would think. And look, these are all fiction, but it's loosely based on the paranormal investigative career of Ed and Lorraine Warren. I think primarily they came to prominence over the Amityville Horror Story. That was based on that. And I think there's a strong case there really wasn't much to that one. There was the horrible murder, but as far as demons and ghosts and all that, I don't think there was ever a solid case there for it. But there's many other cases that Ed and Lorraine dealt with, and they garnered interest, and people, I think, conflate it with religion too much so to where I got to accept it as true. It doesn't necessarily mean they were always con artists or whatnot. If they believe what they believe, then what are you going to do? Could there have been something to some of these cases? Well, maybe, but not like the movies. So for the purposes of movie entertainment, it works. And most of their stories were loosely based on these stories. And it was an interesting thing because it's sort of a callback. In the 70s, there was a couple of movies like, The Exorcist and whatnot, based on a true story. And Amityville Horror was another one of those. Based on, not the actual account, is what you get. So the movie starts out, it has the series started out pretty with the chilling scenes and everything, with the clapping in that first movie and whatnot. And as it goes, they create this narrative that works for these spin-offs. They did with the Annabelle doll story, that became its own thing. The Nun, and just really the atmospherics and look of it is the strength of the whole series. Because as you go, they're very repetitive. So it's a good choice to go ahead and end it. I think they want to continue the franchise overall, the universe as it were. But as far as Ed and Lorraine as being these recurring characters, this is the end of the road for them. And the good qualities about it is that they don't insult the Catholic Church. They use it as heroic means to oppose evil and that sort of thing, which is rare from Hollywood, So there's a respect of a belief in God and that sort of thing. So you get, you got to give them that. And also the chemistry between the actors here who play Ed and Lorraine is very good, and they present a wholesome married couple who love each other and care for each other, and nobody's breaking that apart. As for typical movies, there's always a conflict and problem. Here, it's more about their concern for one another, and it's great. Was it really like that? I don't know. I wasn't there, but for the purposes of the movie and treating these as characters. Probably would have been better if they'd have just changed the names and all that. But they wanted the aspect of this may have actually happened, that kind of thing. But they're heroic characters, and now they're looking to retire from all of this. Ed's not as healthy as he used to be, and this type of stress could be dangerous for him. Meanwhile, their daughter's all grown up, and she's got a fiance, and they're going to get married. And I don't know if they want to. I don't know that the Warrens' daughter continued their work. Maybe, I don't know. But that kind of does this handoff to their daughter and their soon-to-be son-in-law. And maybe that's the deal. But basically, they did the Smurl haunting, which is a story I've seen documentaries on, so I'm familiar with the story. There's been other, ghost stories shows and Discovery or something like that, and I'm familiar with this one. And they didn't really get into everything. There's a scene, I guess they're referring to what happened to the husband in this. But they really don't delve into it. It's just as well. But I don't recall this thing about the mirror, which they do this haunted mirror is connected to the Warrens, and this I think they made that up for the purpose of the movie. They do give a flashback to the Warrens' first case that they did together, and they got pretty good casting for the young versions of the Warrens, and this is at a time where she was about to give birth to their daughter, so. But that sets it up so it's a bookend of their career and whatnot, and they encountered this haunted mirror, and so it shows up again and all that. So there's some interesting aspects. They got the creepy monster that shows up. Annabelle makes an appearance, but was it really Annabelle or the other demon messing with them and that sort of thing? Either one will work. And of course they saved the day, and yay, But the real story, I think, had different elements of it. But ultimately, you've got this family being tormented by these demons. So, more of the same. But as far as if you enjoyed the series, it's a good send-off for these characters. As to what they want to do going forward, I don't know. I was intrigued by the idea of developing films based on old folklore and stuff like that. They did that with the La Llorona character, and I think they're going to do another one. So that sort of thing they could do. The Crooked Man is another one that they teased in one of the earlier films, and maybe there was talk of they might want to do that. Perhaps that sort of thing. They could explore that. There was talk of a TV series, so I don't know how that would play out. So maybe that's something they'll pursue, provided they can keep the costs down, because that's the real trick here. And you can release your horror movies around October. It's probably, chances are it's going to make its money, So it's a good bankable thing to hang on. But in comparison to Weapons, Weapons was brand new and exciting, and it was different and all that. So it beats out Conjuring Last Rites. But Conjuring Last Rites does the job it needed to do for their overall narrative that they established within this connected franchise. And theoretically, yes, they could continue even without the Warrens. So there you go. I liked it for what it was. The first one's the best out of the Conjuring movies themselves. Some of the others, The Nun was interesting. It's the absolute most fictionalized one. The second one, but ultimately there was always something I was like, I don't know. But the main Conjuring films, they had their template and they played it out, and there was a lot of positives there for it, which was a bit surprising considering the era that filmmaking has been in of late. So there you go. The Conjuring, Last Rites.